Listen, I've got something extra special for you guys. We're about ready to get into Booster Gold, number 1 through 6 from 2007, but I want to tell you about the treat that is awaiting you at the end of this podcast. As the future unfolds, prepare yourselves for the debut AI hit, Booster Gold. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for this one. All right, on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Source Material Comics Podcast. That's right. It's kind of odd recording a Source Material Comics podcast without Mark. It seems like that's all I've been doing for the Source Material. It's either me just by myself or Mark Radulich sitting across the table talking comics with me. But this time,
I'm here to brighten your day, Jesse.
That's right. This time, Evan Bevins has come to the table. This kind of begins my celebration as we approach my 10th year anniversary in podcasting. This whole next, 8 months, eight or 9 months, I'll be working towards my 10-year anniversary in podcasting. So we're going to start it out good here. First episode.
Don't let Mark hear you talked about a milestone with me. You know how he gets.
Yes, indeed. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, Mark Radulich included. But we're ringing this in with a character that I can't say that I've had the pleasure of reading. I think the most that I've ever read with Booster Gold in it was 52. I was getting the trades of 52 from the library and reading those as best as I could. And I know Booster was kind of featured a little bit in there, but that's it. As far as DC,
you read, we talked about Heroes in Crisis.
Oh, we did. That's right.
Yeah.
Heroes in Crisis was, that was.
He and Harley were the prime suspects.
That's right. Okay. So there you go. Everybody I've talked to has always said, Booster Gold, what a great character. But right there you go. There's my history with Booster Gold. It's very, very, very light. Don't have a whole lot on there. How about you, Evan?
I remember hearing about Booster Gold, and this might blow your mind. Back when I was a kid growing up in the bustling metropolis of Bluefield, West Virginia, there was a comic book store that had a TV commercial.
Okay.
And they referenced Booster Gold, Blue Devil, and Swamp Thing.
Those are some characters right there. My goodness.
Probably my first exposure to him with any sort of context was in the Overpower card game.
Okay.
That's where I met him and Blue Beetle, who we'll talk about a little this evening as well. I believe I met Booster and Blue Beetle and read them in depth in a series called formerly known as the Justice League.
Okay.
Which was when Maxwell Lord, who we'll also see in here, got some of the B and C or perhaps lower list members of the Justice League back together to form a hotline-based team called the Super Buddies.
Super Buddies.
And it was followed by a sequel called I Can't Believe It's Not the Justice League. That's where I really got to know them. And then I went back and read some of those Wahaha Justice Leagues, and I think I made it 39 weeks into 52 until the 87th Cannibal reference, and then I just threw in the towel. I eventually read the trade, but I picked this up. I bought this whole series as it was coming out. I got every issue. Absolutely loved it. I don't remember how long Jeff Johns was on it. Jeff Johns did not stay on there very long. And it wasn't immediately, but Jurgens ended up writing a lot of this, and Keith Giffen came back and wrote a lot of it. It was a lot of that classic early Booster Gold creative team.
Mm-hmm. It's showing up here. Booster Gold, he wrote up to issue 10 and then issue 1 million. Issue 10 hit the shelves June 11th, 2008. July 10th of 2008 was Booster Gold 1 million. And then that's it. After that, in 2008, he must go to something different.
Yep.
Probably
well, you
Green
had
Lantern.
Chuck Dixon came in and wrote 2 issues after that. And I believe one of those involved the legendary Batman villain Killer Moth.
Oh, boy.
There was somebody changed history, and Killer Moth became the Batman of the supervillain set. When villains were in trouble in Gotham, they sent up the Killer Moth signal. Then Rick Remender did a couple issues, and then by issue 15, Jurgens took over as the writer and penciler.
All right.
So I stuck with that. Sorry for that detour, but I stuck with that series all the way through. It lasted into Flashpoint. I don't know if the Flash kept its numbering, but most of the stuff was limited series or specials in Flashpoint, and Booster Gold kept going because he was the only guy besides Barry Allen who knew something was wrong. When the time stream changed, Booster was still trying to figure it out. And then once the new 52 hit, we got a much less interesting and amusing Booster in Justice League International, and some hints that the original Booster from the original timeline might still be around, and then he just kind of faded away.
Oh.
And he's come back, but it's just not the same. I started to say this to me was like the pinnacle of Booster Gold, but this was the vast majority of my Booster Gold experience. I've gotten some of the original issues, I've read some of the old stuff, but this is the Booster Gold that I knew and followed for about 4 years.
Can you tell the listeners who this Booster Gold is?
He was a college football star from the 25th century, which I'm kind of skeptical that football will still be recognizable in the 25th century, but far be it for me. Dan Jurgens has a few more comics under his belt than I do, so I'll defer to him. And he Pete Rosed himself out of a career through a game and wound up working as either a night watchman or maybe a janitor at a museum dedicated to superheroes. And even though this was in the 25th century, they had among the exhibits a Legion of Superheroes flight ring, Legions from the 30th century. Mm-hmm. And he took that and some other items and a security droid and went back in time to the 20th century to use his technology and knowledge of the future as a hero. A less aggressive Biff Tannen, if you will.
Right, definitely.
And he was a hero, but he was also about getting his name out there and making a buck.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then he and Blue Beetle were kind of mainstays in the comedic era of the Justice League. You probably got a glimpse of them in Death of Superman because they were part of the team that got smacked around by Doomsday.
That's right. I do remember that. Yep.
And then it seems like Booster kind of goes in cycles. He had a series for a while. He was Justice Leaguer for a while. Then he was just kind of a curiosity. Mm-hmm. And then people would pick him back up and do some things with him. And, of course, a storyline that obviously is very key to what we're about to talk about was Infinite Crisis. And Countdown to Infinite Crisis was launched when Blue Beetle uncovered a conspiracy. All the A-listers were kind of like, yeah, that's nice, Ted. We've got other stuff going on. And he traced it back to Maxwell Lord, who killed him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait a minute, I've just discovered this character that's been around for years and is hilarious, and he just got shot in the head. Booster showed up in that, and Booster played a role in Infinite Crisis with the introduction of Jaime Reyes, the new Blue Beetle. And then Booster had a role to play in 52, of course, and that's where the title of this trade, 52 Pickup, comes from. I believe that was the title of a blog or a podcast that kind of reported on 52.
Oh, really? Pretty funny.
And I think the title was a nod to that.
That's perfect. It is really a perfect name for the story that we're about to get into.
52 Pickup, a podcast about the strange and wonderful DC Comics series 52. that was kind of a nod to that. And then Booster played a big role in that, and that led into this series, which went for 4 years, and I couldn't pretend to be... I was late to the DC party. I couldn't pretend to be super upset about all the changes that were made and things that were lost in the new 52, or at least it wasn't as important to me as some other people, but I was very sad that I was losing Booster Gold. Like I said, he headlined Justice League International, but it just wasn't the same.
His friendship with Ted Kord is the other thing that I hear a lot about.
Yes.
Ted Kord, Blue Beetle. He's not the first Blue Beetle. This is the second, I assume. Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, we're going to talk about some Blue Beetles in this story, but can you kind of give us an idea of who Ted Kord is?
He's an inventor and a businessman. He was originally a Carlton Comics. Is it Carlton or Charlton?
One or the other.
This Bailey. Originally from there, it was in Justice League, I believe, that they became friends. Blue Beetle, Dan Garrett, the original Blue Beetle, and then Ted Kord were around for years before Booster Gold was. Blue Beetle was actually the basis for the character Night Owl in Watchmen. Originally, Watchmen was supposed to be about the Charlton characters. Night Owl was Blue Beetle. You'll see the goggles and the extra weight and the ships that are similar. I think Rorschach was supposed to be the Question. As originally,
that was a plan.
Blue Beetle's a tech hero, what they would call in the Marvel superheroes role-playing game from TSR, a high-tech wonder. Dan Garrett got powers from the Scarab. Jaime Reyes gets powers from the Scarab. Ted Kord did not get powers from the Scarab.
Okay.
And I was late to Ted Kord, so I was even later to Dan Garrett. I remember when they were talking about this Scarab thing in Countdown and Infinite Crisis. I'm like, what? Beetle makes all his stuff. It's Scarab nonsense. The version of the character you meet first tends to be your favorite.
That's your favorite.
Right. But nothing wrong with Jaime Reyes. I like Jaime. Even if the part in the movie where the lady called him Jamie hit a little close to home, because I thought
ouch.
Jamie Reyes for years, and I think I was watching The Brave and the Bold. I'm like, why are they calling this guy Jaime?
Yeah.
Jaime. Yeah.
Oh, right.
But Blue Beetle often used for comic relief, seen as a punchline. The Countdown story was pretty epic. It was like a 90-page one-shot that set up the 4 limited series that led into Infinite Crisis, and really showed you that Blue Beetle wasn't taken seriously, but was a capable and dedicated hero. His tragic demise informs a lot of this story.
But their Booster and Ted's friendship is one that a lot of people talk about, which I assume this is probably something that grew with the Wahaha stuff.
That Blue Beetle predates Booster Gold by quite a bit.
Good bit.
But I believe it was in those Justice League comics that their friendship really developed, and now they're almost inseparable. The last series that I think there was an 8-issue series from DC a couple years ago called Blue and Gold that was basically about them being social media superheroes for the common man, kind of.
Let's go ahead and get into the first 3 issues of Booster Gold 52 pickup. First issue of Booster Gold, number 1, hit the shelves August 15th, 2007. Written by Jeff Johns. The credits for these I grabbed from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. There's 2 writers that are credited, Jeff Johns and Jeff Katz.
Yes.
2 Jeffs spelled completely differently. Yep. Penciled by Dan Jurgens. Inked by definitely a name that I recognize from the 90s Image days, Norman Rapmond, as he's listed here. Lettered by Rob Lee, Jared K. Fletcher, also on lettering, along with Nick J. Napolitano on letters as well. 2 colorists for credits throughout these 6 issues. Brian Miller and Lee Loffridge are coloring here. I'm going to go ahead and hop into it here. You kind of already set it up here. Ted Kord gets shot by Maxwell Lord. He's been gone for, I think the story says, about 18 months.
Yeah, because 52 was so named. It was a weekly series. It took place over 52 weeks. After Infinite Crisis, all the DC books jumped ahead to 1 year later. That was the branding on all the comics. And then 52 was to fill in that year.
Oh, okay. All right.
So this takes place sometime after 52s. For once in the not so definite science of time in comic books, we had a definite length of time there.
I don't understand why I hadn't been reading more Booster Gold. This seems like it would be a hero right up my alley. This is a guy who is a time traveler using the knowledge from the future to kind of get an edge, plus some of the future tech that he has.
I'm not sure, again, because I was late. This was my in-depth dive into Booster Gold. I'm not sure how much in the early issues, and it may have been a lot, but I'm not sure how much in the 80s series time travel. Obviously, the fact that he was from the future was a big part of it, but I'm not sure. I got the impression that this kind of guardian of the time stream idea that's introduced here was a newer take on him.
Was a newer take on him. Yeah. This is, to me, he's a more comedic bishop.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I took it. He's coming back to he's not trying to stop the mutant trader here. He's just trying to make a buck and get and a big thing about this character is that fame and fortune thing that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that is a driving personality trait. He must have all the eyes on him in order to be famous, and that's what his plan is. But that's what also makes the character, and I know we're going to talk about this, but that's what also makes the character that more interesting, because no matter how hard he tries, it just doesn't happen. He gets looked at as a pariah almost sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way this book kind of starts out. So let me get into that here real quick. Credit to my notes in ChatGPT for the storytelling flair, as I always put it. Here we go. In a breathtaking convergence of time's tumultuous waves and unyielding heroism, the saga of Booster Gold, alias Michael John Carter, unfolds across the vast canvas of the DC Comics universe. Emerging from the annals of the 25th century, Booster's trajectory was initially driven by the allure of fame and fortune, deploying advanced technology to manipulate the annals of history. Yet, following the seismic upheavals of Infinite Crisis in 52, a newfound desire to reclaim honor and secure a spot within the esteemed ranks of the Justice League propels him towards redemption's uncertain path. Amidst the League's scrutiny and skepticism, a week-long probationary period orchestrated by the discerning gaze of Batman stands as a crucible for Booster's redemption. Harnessing his futuristic expertise and aided by the trusty Skeets, his loyal security computer droid, Booster navigates contemporary challenges, all while grappling with the complexities of guiding his ancestor, Daniel Carter, who unwittingly had adopted the supernova costume. And
yeah, it's been a while since I read. Supernova was an identity that Booster adopted during 52 when they thought he was dead. And Supernova was kind of how he took on Mr. Mind, the diabolical little caterpillar guy from another dimension, usually fights Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was, I don't remember a lot of the specifics, but Booster had used that identity, and then, yeah, I guess his ancestor was using the costume some as well.
Okay. However, the tempest of fate intensifies when Rip Hunter, the enigmatic Time Master, arrives, and I call him the Time Master. He's a member. It sounds like it's a group of the Time Masters. Arrives with dire warnings of temporal disturbances threatening the very fabric of reality. As Booster embarks on missions across the fractured tapestry of time, a pivotal encounter with the Justice League culminates in a harrowing revelation: the shocking transformation of a membership certificate into a death certificate for Green Lantern Hal Jordan. Rejecting the offer to become a part of the Justice League, Booster Gold embraces a clandestine mantle, striking a perilous bargain with Rip to save his cherished friend, Ted Kord, the Blue Beetle. Yet, as the tendrils of time's machinations spiral, the emergence of a mysterious figure in the supernova mantle heralds chaos, altering the course of Green Lantern legacies. Booster's pursuit through Pasadena, his clash with Sinestro, and an unexpected revelation about Superman's tragic destiny, because things change there, I think, at the end of issue 2, where Superman is now dead, showcase the intricate dance between fate and intervention. As Supernova's treacherous schemes unfold, the precariousness of Superman's upbringing unravels, leading Booster on a desperate mission to protect a vital ancestral figure in the Old West. In a riveting climax, Booster's fateful flight collides with the cosmic treadmills of Barry Allen and Wally West, precipitating an unforeseen convergence of destinies amidst the time-worn corridors of history. My goodness. Wow. There's a lot that happened in those 5 paragraphs that I just read. That was 3 issues worth of synopsis. And really, essentially, what we have here is Rip Hunter comes to Booster and says, look, I need your help. You need to come on a journey with me and help me first figure out, we've got to stop. Somebody's messing with time. We've got to stop whoever this is, and I need your help to do that. And then, of course, I think at first Booster's like, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Goes to meet the Justice League, and then, of course, the photo starts to fade, as in Back to the Future.
Yeah, the membership certificate turns into a death certificate.
Right.
Which bugged me at first, but they explained it in the second issue why that did. It was because of Booster Gold's time traveling and stuff like that it wasn't just that piece of paper would have been Green Lantern's death certificate or Hal Jordan's death certificate.
Okay, so changes in his hand, he takes it, and that's when he goes back to Rip, and he's like, I'm in. I've got to help out. Clearly, doesn't want Green Lantern to die. What's interesting, though, is that the greatest Green Lantern initially, I think they said, was going to be Guy Gardner.
Yeah, he would have been the one that the Ring chose if he hadn't been across the country visiting his dying father, which is something that happened because of his conversation with Booster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Guy Gardner was like the second choice, I think, and but if it hadn't been for Booster's intervention, Guy would have been chosen by Abin-Sur's ring.
Yeah, Booster backs into history throughout almost every single encounter that he has here in these first couple issues, where, just like you said, he ends up talking Guy into going and talking to his father, which is a great touching moment, by the way. You don't usually see Guy in that light. You get to see Booster kind of level with him. He also plants the idea for the Sinestro Corps.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Because Sinestro shows up in Pasadena. He's flying around. He's looking for Guy Gardner because Supernova went back in time. Yeah, I kind of got to set this up. The antagonists here are somebody masquerading in the Supernova costume, and we do find out later he's also with somebody else, but they're going around in a time sphere, and they're also changing history, and that's what Rip's trying to prevent.
Yeah, that's why I originally pitched this one to you when you were talking, and I know we've been talking about doing it for over a year, I think. Kept having to reschedule it, but because this setup, at least these first 6 issues, and this premise didn't last a super long time, but it reminded me of Superhero Quantum Leap.
Oh, yes.
It's not quite traveling through time to set right what once went wrong, but it's traveling through time to fix things that are getting messed up by nefarious time travel. The
evil leaper is going through and messing things up, and now we've got to try and fix them.
Leaper X, to put it in the
reboots.
Leaper
X. That's right. Good call. Yes, I'm totally on board with those kind of adventures where Booster's just like, okay, I'm gonna try and do my best here. And I love how I think that the fight with Sinestro and essentially the way it resolves is my favorite part of these first 3.
Yeah.
Where he realizes he's fighting Sinestro. He's like, dang, I've got a pretty big challenge on my hands here. He is like one of the greatest Green Lanterns at this time. And yes, he was sent to Pasadena by Supernova, who showed up in the past and told Sinestro, hey, the greatest Green Lantern's on Earth. And of course, Sinestro's like, all right, let's go see. Shows up in Pasadena, California, looking for Guy. And then at that point, that's where Booster shows up and tries to stop things. Then, as he's battling Sinestro, he is trying to figure out a way to beat him, and then he just realizes feed into his ego.
Yeah.
And he talks about, he finally gets Sinestro to stop, and he's like, look, I'm a time traveler too, and I just want you to know, I've come back to see the greatest Green Lantern of all, and that's you. And Sinestro's like, oh, really? And starts twirling his mustache. Yeah. And then at that point, as he talks Sinestro down, essentially, Sinestro's not interested anymore and leaves. But it's great because Sinestro asks him, how come your ring's yellow? And it's such a great moment where he's like, oh yeah, I'm part of the Corps too. What are they called? The Sinestro Corps. And then he's like, of course. And then Sinestro leaves. I'm like, way to go, Booster. Look, I'm not going to complain about a time travel series as long as it's done well. And right now, I'm on board. By issue 3, actually, when I started reading these issues, I'm like, I just want to read the first issue, and I'll kind of piece these as I go along. And I was hooked. I was like, okay, I've got to read these. I kept sending you messages when we were reading them. I was enjoying myself here. What were your thoughts there, Evan?
I was on board with this from day one. It was a lot of fun to go back and read. There's a lot of great comedic dialogue, which I've read a lot of Jeff Johns stuff, enjoyed it, a lot of epic stories. I don't necessarily think of Jeff Johns for comedy, but there's some great dialogue. The moment when Sinestro is trying to figure out who sent Booster Gold, and he says the droid has a vague manhunter quality, and then Skeets yells, no man escapes me, and whacks Sinestro in the head, does more damage than Booster did, actually. And the accidental creation of the Sinestro Corps.
Do we get the explanation? I think we have this explanation from Rip in issue 1 where he tells Booster, he's like, look, man, your destiny is pretty much the fact that you're going to be one of the greatest heroes that nobody will ever know.
Well,
and I think that's like the tagline.
That's why he picks him for this mission, is because he even says at one point, look, Rip Hunter's not my name. If if my enemies knew who I was, they could go back and eliminate me as a baby or whatever. He says your cover is that you're a joke, that nobody takes you seriously, and really you're going to be protecting the timeline. Because that's what Batman enlisted Booster's aid. One of the recurring themes I love in various DC stories is Batman finding, when he gets fed up with the Justice League or when he wants to make sure something's done right, he pulls in heroes, sometimes unexpectedly, like Green Arrow. Whenever there's a problem, Batman always knows he can rely on Green Arrow. Or he's the one that drafted Plastic Man into the JLA in the Grant Morrison run. And you wouldn't think that Batman would be like, yeah, let's get this Joker on here.
Right.
But he recognized the potential. And in Infinite Crisis, Batman's pulling together a squad that includes Mr. Terrific and Green Arrow and Booster Gold and the new Blue Beetle. You see and hear Batman, when Booster turns down the Justice League membership, acting like his old self-centered self, Batman's suspicious as to what's going on, because he knows there's more to Booster than he's letting on.
Yeah.
When Booster realizes that history's being changed and Hal Jordan's going to die, and Rip told him he's the guy who needs to fix it, he starts playing into that, gives up his chance at finally being a legit superhero. And what was the line? Because the line was fantastic from Skeets.
Which one?
Rip Hunter says, no one would ever expect you to be able to pull off something like this. And Booster says, you're saying my destiny is to let everyone think I'm still a loser, a jerk. And Skeet says, an egotistical, self-centered moron. And
he says it twice.
You're asking me to not only let everyone alive in the present think I'm still the same. And Skeets goes, egotistical, self-centered moron. I got it the first time, Skeets.
Yeah. And of course, that's why Batman's suspicious. This is his ticket to be known, to be part of something that will give him the fame that he wants. And for Brewster to turn it down, that's definitely kind of odd.
And not only the fame, but he's grown. He wants more than that.
Yeah.
He wants to be a legitimate hero, and he has to give that up, and nobody realizes why. And most of them are like, yeah, same old Booster, but Batman has that talent for recognizing what people can be, what their potential can be, and that doesn't go away. By the way, in upcoming issues, Batman doesn't let this go.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting. Yeah. Rip brings him in, and Booster's like, okay, I'm in. But there's one thing we need to do, and that is rescue Ted Kord so that he's not killed. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal. Really, I knew going into this, I didn't know what the result was going to be. Maybe I did, because I've seen some future issues of stuff. But I wondered what how this story was going to resolve. I know that a hero's death is usually a pretty big deal. We do know that heroes don't stay dead all the time in comics. But Rip Hunter, is he going to go for this? Because he's trying to protect the time stream. And this would be going against exactly what he's trying to do. But Rip Hunter agrees to if he will join, that they will go and rescue Ted Kord. Blue Beetle, prior to his death. That's kind of a big deal, and they set it up great with I assume you have the little kind of promo page possibly at the end of the first issue. Yeah.
And I was going to mention that because I did read through the whole series. I don't know if this was a DC thing or specifically a Jeff Johns thing. I feel like a lot of first issues or milestone issues that Jeff Johns did, he did stuff like this. And I can tell you, I only know of one of those for sure that we actually got to see.
Oh, really? Yeah, because there's...
now, the one makes reference to the Final Crisis, and obviously that did happen and wasn't even remotely the Final Crisis. But that one did happen. That story happened. I don't know if that scene did. And then the one with the multiple Blue Beetles we'll talk about in a little bit. But I don't think the one with Brainiac 5 and the T-Rex happened, and the little Mr. Mines. I don't recall that happening.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about the whole Brainiac 5. And as soon as
I'm not sure.
As soon as I saw the Legion ring, I was like, oh man, I wonder if at some point he has to mix it up with the Legion at some point. So I'm incredibly too scared to do a Legion podcast or even one just because I don't know. Okay, this member. And
you've got to go to which version, because there's like 14 distinct different versions of each character.
Yeah, right.
I loved Mark Waid's Legion series, but that was really the first Legion of superhero stuff I ever read. And I look at some of the older stuff and I'm like, man, I bet if you grew up reading the Legion, you didn't care for that Mark Waid series at all.
Really?
As well written as it was, it rearranged everything.
Yeah. I've heard that the continuity for the Legion is tough. It's a challenge, I guess you'd say. We've kind of slept a little bit on issue 3.
Oh yeah,
where
you said your favorite part was the battle between Booster and Sinestro, but how can that compare to the battle between Booster and Jonah Hex?
Oh yes, indeed. Boy, do they sit down and have a drink. Yeah, he gets drunk with Jonah Hex, which is great. And when we say drunk, it's not like he sits down at the bar and drinks for a few. He actually gets pretty inebriated, and then it carries on through the story, which is pretty funny.
He has to outdrink Jonah Hex in order to get the information he needs.
Right. The whole point of them going back into the past is Lex Luthor. No, wait a second. Let me try it again. Something happened to where Superman landed and was found by Lionel Luthor. And
because
Superman,
Jonathan Kent was never born.
Right. Superman grows up as the younger brother to Lex Luthor. And what did they say? In less than a year after Lex Luthor finds out that Clark is Superman, Lex kills Superman. We have a world without a Superman. That's why that death certificate is there. And again, yeah, he's got to go back. They've got to try and figure out, where is this happening at? Where did the domino fall that created this? And it's in the Old West. Jonah Hex is not really involved here, other than I think Supernova approaches him to do.
He tried to hire him to. The domino that fell is someone killed the doctor who delivered Jonathan Kent's great grandfather.
Okay. All right.
This was in Kansas City in the 1800s. And Supernova tried to hire Jonah Hex to kill the doctor.
And, of course, Jonah, I think, tells Booster when Booster shows up, he's like, no, I turned them down, but in order to get out of here alive, you got to drink with me. Or vice versa. He told him that after he drank with him.
Yeah, he said, you outdrink me and buy the whiskey, and I'll answer every question you got. You lose, I'll kill you where you stand.
We got a Jonah Hex appearance here. And of course we have the Marty McFly get up practically that Booster's in.
Yeah, it looks more authentic than Marty's.
Yes, I'll agree.
Outfit from Back to the Future 3. But yeah, that was what I was thinking of too.
Yeah.
The pattern cowl vest.
He has plastic guns, if I remember correctly. He grabs the guns and he finds out they're plastic, which is hilarious. Okay, yeah, we get a bar fight too. And throughout these issues, they're kind of peppering in these little pages or one page situations that are talking about other Blue Beetles, and they're not letting on what's going on. They're just talking about either an event that's happening with a Blue Beetle, either in the past or presently or in the future. That's kind of leading you on there. But yeah, the final battle of issue 3 was Supernova showing up trying to kill the Doctor by dropping Buffalo on them.
Yes. and Booster fighting him while completely drunk.
Oh yes. And then by the end of that, again, Booster walks backwards into history because this is in Kansas City. This is not happening in Smallville. And when the Doctor sees all this battle go on, about to get also almost getting killed by a bunch of buffalo being dropped on his head, he tells his wife that he's had enough. He's moving back to Smallville. Again, putting history back in place completely by accident. I mean, which is great.
That issue wraps up and leads into issue 4, which is my personal highlight from this story, with the Booster demanding to drive the Time Sphere while drunk. And he says, oh, come on. Rip says, friends don't let friends drive drunk. And Booster says, oh, come on. What am I really going to hit out here? And he rear ends the cosmic treadmill. with Barry Allen and Wally West.
Yes.
On board.
And this is a big deal to me. I knew at the end of issue 3, I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to get into now? This is Wally West as Kid Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Allen as the Flash. And anytime those guys got involved in some type of time travel adventure, it's them being out here, I knew it was going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be important.
That's just a terrific setup. You've got Booster Gold having to lean into the image of being a joke when he's finally in a position to overcome that. You've got a set mission that could have gone all throughout DC history and just had all kinds of crazy stuff happen. And then he saves Superman by out drinking Jonah Hex. And if that alone wasn't a sentence you thought you'd ever hear or say, then he drives a time machine drunk and rear ends the Flash.
Great. Oh, man. Getting into issues 4 through 6. Amidst the temporal symphony orchestrated by Rip Hunter, Booster Gold finds himself entangled in a tumultuous dance across history's tapestry and DC Comics' riveting saga. Collaborating, we'll put that in quotes, with speedsters Wally West and Barry Allen, their convergence alerts them to the nefarious intentions of Supernova, targeting the pivotal moment of the Flash's origin in Central City. However, their venture into the past proves to be an intricate snare as Supernova and the ruthless Rex Hunter, an exiled time master, emerge to enact their twisted designs. A fierce clash ensues, culminating in the Flash's abrupt disappearance from existence, erased from existence, and a confrontation that sees Booster outmatched by Supernova. The chaotic fracas escalates when a sophisticated security droid, Maximilian, intervenes, amplifying the conflict's intensity. In a high-stakes gambit to preserve history, Booster grapples with an emotional revelation. The unmasking of Supernova. Is it his ancestor?
It's his father.
It's his father. Unveiling Booster's own father, Jonar Carter. Driven by resolve, Booster races against time, narrowly averting disaster at the lab where a young Barry Allen works and solidifying, we'll use that word, I guess, the time stream, and lightning struck just when it needed to. As victory seemingly dawns, Rip unveils that before they can move on to save Ted Cord, they must first detour to rectify the tragic plight of Barbara Gordon, a.k.a. Batgirl, entangled in the clutches of the infamous Joker. Yes, that's right, folks. We're heading back to the Killing Joke. And I know I just kind of briefly touched on how they beat Supernova. Supernova ended up getting struck by lightning, and very much Back to the Future 3. Back to the Future 2. I guess his suit had time circuits, and apparently it zapped him back to the past. He's gone, and they've captured Rex and are going to interrogate him. Rip plans on interrogating him to find out, okay, who put all this in motion.
We just had a storyline where Booster Gold defeats Sinestro by playing to his ego, saves Superman by out-drinking Jonah Hex, has a DUI in the time stream involving the Flash, and now we're going to go to the Killing Joke.
Yeah.
And it works.
Man, I will tell you, the cover to issue 5?
Yes.
Oh, if you don't know what you're getting there, it is a take on the cover of most of the graphic novels that you see. I don't know what issue that is that came out of the Killing Joke, and I can't even remember.
No, it was a one shot. It was
okay.
Story, The Killing Joke, and and a lot of times these callbacks are, I don't know, for a cheap thrill or just unnecessary or not worthy of the story, I guess. But this works.
Yeah,
this is excellent.
The cover is the Joker holding the camera, but in the lens of the camera, you can see Booster, who's trying to essentially stand in front of Barbara, which is, oh man, it's great. You see that issue, I don't know how you're not wanting to pick it up. Okay, all right, here we go. Yes, Rip is saying, look, we've got one more stop. Even though these guys have already been defeated, we have to go back because there's another domino that's been toppled, and we've got to go stop the Joker from shooting Batgirl and paralyzing her. All right. After many unsuccessful attempts Rip Hunter has Booster confront a chilling truth, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this issue because this really glazes over what happens in this issue. But yes, essentially, Booster is trying to save Batgirl and fails over and over. After many unsuccessful attempts, Rip Hunter has Booster confront a chilling truth. Some events are irrevocably woven into time's fabric, deemed immutable, including the heart-wrenching demise of Ted Kord, the Blue Beetle. Crestfallen and grappling with the weight of the unchangeable destinies, Booster's resolve falters until revelation emerges. An alliance of Blue Beetles from diverse eras emerge from a portal, united in a mission to rewrite fate, and they want Booster to join. Ignited by newfound hope, Booster, joined by the Beatles, embark on a perilous journey to alter the tragic course of Ted Kord's fate. Their arrival in the past, amid a precarious showdown between Ted Kord and Maxwell Lord, sparks a tumultuous melee where alliances are forged amidst the chaos. Lord's sinister machinations escalate as Booster, propelled by unwavering determination, intervenes to save Kord from a fatal fate. Their escape into the time stream marks a pivotal moment as Ted Kord, safe and reunited with Booster, while the tides of time remain unchanged for the world they left behind. They succeeded, folks. They went back and they got Ted Kord, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth. Let's start with issue 4 issue 4. Issue 5 is going to probably take up about 10-15 minutes of our time. But issue 4, we got the flashes, man. This is the pivotal moment. This is the thing where the flashes are, the legacy of Barry Allen, the Flash, is going to be created. And of course, it looks like we have to try and save them. What are your thoughts here, man, on issue 4 itself?
The intro is just comedy gold, with them dealing with a time travel fender bender and Barry Allen saying, "Take a good long look, Wally. That's why you don't drink alcohol to excess." and Booster says, "That whiskey saved Superman." It's just, yeah. And then, you go from that to this revelation of Rex Hunter and Booster's dad, which that was foreshadowed back, I think, in the second issue when Booster was talking about his dad to Guy. It was his dad that convinced him to throw the game that got him, that ended his football career.
Right.
That takes it to a whole nother level. You got some comedy and the deepening mystery and some action and suspense. It's a very fun issue.
Mm-hmm. I pointed out, and I'll point out to our listeners here, but I sent it to you. The title of the story is called "He's Gonna Save Every One of Us." Immediately, I was like, "Oh, that's definitely a Flash Gordon reference." Definitely a Flash Gordon reference. But yeah, man, we're getting ready to get into this. We're going to stop. We gotta make sure that the Flashes are created, and we actually watched them get pretty much disappeared. They get erased from existence. We have Maximilian, which is this mean-looking alternate, a warped mirror version of Skeets with weapons and just this. It looks like a mean droid. That's a pretty cool little addition. But yeah, essentially our villain here, Supernova, ends up getting zapped with the same lightning, I believe, that creates the Flash, and that sends him back. He's kind of out of the picture now. I'm sure he's probably going to show back up here, I would assume, at some point later in the series, possibly. But yeah, that's kind of a big deal. That's your father that's trying to kill you. That's your father that's messing up time. His father, I assume you may know, you may not know. Do you know, has he been a villainous character for a while?
I don't know. That's the only time I remember in the context of this story. I'm not sure, and I don't know if that thing about his dad being the reason he threw the game was established, or if that was something they kind of added to the lore here.
Okay, all right. But yeah, a fun issue all around. Essentially, just like you said, we learn a little bit more about Booster's past, threats that they have to deal with. But at the end of issue 4, we've still got 2 issues left to go in this series, and it looks like our villains are at least off the table here. Let's get into issue 5. We've already talked about the cover. Name of the story is No Joke, and we see Batgirl opening things up by kicking Scarecrow and talking with her dad, which is just great. It's a way to throw you back. And okay, let me just tell you going into this issue, I was like, how? And I think that is the brilliance of what they're trying to convey with this story. They want you to believe that there's no way Ted Kord's coming back.
They also threw you for a loop by suggesting that one of the darkest, most infamous moments in DC history was the result of time travel.
True.
With Barbara Gordon being paralyzed.
Yes. Yeah. Making that a part of this story. Hey, this is going to be something that needs to be changed. And I didn't know. I assumed this story, if they would have went and changed this, it would have been pretty shocking to the DC universe. It would be a pretty big reversal. And really, is that what we're going to do with this series? Does Booster Gold carry enough clout to be the man responsible for actually saving Barbara Gordon and at least keeping her around as Batgirl? And then what we find out is no. No, it's not. It was all a ruse by Rip to essentially teach Booster a lesson, because Booster tries, and it's not like he just tries 2 or 3 times either. I feel like he tries multiple times until Rip finally is like, okay, do you get it now? Do you get it that you cannot change this? I will say that I'm sure it's explained some way, but I felt like Booster getting beat up by the Carnies was kind of I was like, I am getting beat up by the Joker every single time, or failing every single time. It's hard for me, the time travel guy, the time travel bone in me didn't like a little bit of that, but that's just me personally. I'm not saying that they take lengths to kind of explain a little bit of it, although I'm sure there's probably some kind of weird hyper time deal that I'm not understanding, but that is something that I know existed or exists in DC continuity or DC lore. But anyway, I didn't understand why Booster wasn't running into himself. My guess is it's probably alternate timelines or something like that. I was like, man, he should be going back and running into himself each time that he's trying to stop the Joker, and there should be multiple boosters there to kind of make sure that he succeeds. But clearly, as Rip explains, it is, what is it called? Solidified time? Solidified time. It is a concept that says that Rip believes, and has seen and believes this to be true, that there are moments that cannot be changed. And this is something you see in other science fiction as well that kind of use this. There are moments in the timeline that cannot be changed, and Barbara Gordon being shot by the Joker and paralyzed is one of them.
Turns out you just need Barry Allen and a flashpoint to change that.
Yeah, right.
But, and just let me say, and you'll think I'm doing a bit here, but if you would like to see multiple time travel trips to the same point by the same person done well and done right,
yeah,
have I got a Squirrel Girl story for you.
Oh boy. Oh my goodness. Well then,
the only other 2 words that I will give you to entice you to read it are Dr. Doom.
Oh my. Oh man. All right, I'm on board. I really feel for Booster when he has to understand and come to the realization that Ted Kord's death is also solidified time, and that there is no going back. And Booster felt betrayed. He was told that, hey, I'm going to join you. Yeah, we can do it. You're on board. All right, we can go back. We'll save Ted. And they don't. No matter, I should say, Rip says that they cannot. And he does not save Barbara. He assumes the same thing is going to be, same fact is going to apply with Ted Kord. I do want to throw out the mention for, what do they call them? Go ahead.
The people pulling the strings behind Rex Hunter.
Yeah. We got Degaton, Despero, and the Ultra Humanite.
Yes. And talk about dark, as if revisiting the Killing Joke wasn't enough. You've got Rip torturing Rex, trying to get information out of him, and then the trio of villains killing Rex Hunter as a baby.
Yeah, she's a crime in the crib.
Which,
and
it's only implied, but that's pretty dark.
It really is.
But it's also that this whole issue is so well done. Normally, I would be railing against that, and it's. I don't even know that they did it for shock value. They're illustrating the threat that Rip warned Booster about, and going with the old time travel conundrum. If you could kill so-and-so as a baby before they did what they did, would you do it? And these guys are evil enough to do it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But that whole issue is just, again, from something that the first 4 issues are laugh out loud funny. And then to go this dark and do it well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. When he first does that attempt to save Barbara, first off, he's captured, he's strung up, and then he gets loose, but he knows he's running out of time, and he just gets there in time to watch Joker shoot her. And then he gets his butt handed to him. Joker beats the crap out of him and then is about to shoot him, but Rip pulls him out of the time stream. And then when he wakes up from being unconscious, laying in the bed with bruises all over his face, the first thing he does is get up out of the bed. He talks to Rip for a few seconds. He's like, "You send me back now." And Rip's like, "No, I don't think so. You're not in the bed. Nope. Go ahead and send me back." And he does. And each time he gets there's a lot of wordless panels of just Booster getting beat and beat and beat and beat. There's I'm looking at the one where the Joker has what are those called? The buzzers on his hand, but he's using that. Yeah, he's using that on his face, on Booster's face, and he gets up and Booster's like, in the medical facility, he goes, "Again, send me back." I think what that clearly demonstrates is the determination to change this, because I'm sure that Booster understands if he can change this thing, Ted Kord's going to be a cake. That's going to be a cakewalk. Mm-hmm. But he can't, no matter what he tries, and it's rough. That's a rough realization for him. But the ending page, man, the ending page where the Blue Beetles show up and they're like, we got, help me out, Dan Garrett.
Yep.
Jaime Reyes. Mm-hmm. And then we do not have a name for our future Blue Beetle, do we?
We do not.
He's just a 23rd century Blue Beetle or something. He's something
like that.
Yeah, he's a good ways into the future. But they are there and they're like, "We're going to do it. And join us now. Now join us, Booster Gold, won't you?" And of course, Booster's going to be on board if they could tell them how they're going to do it. Anyway, issue 5, great issue. Just like you said, hilarity into darkness. And now we have hope. Now we have hope. Can this be done? The Blue Beetles have arrived. And then with issue 6, we finally get the resolution of this story. The explanation, I think, is given that the future Blue Beetle and
the 27th century.
27th century. Ahead of Booster. The 27th century Blue Beetle has some type of powers. I don't know if the Scarab gives them or if it's just technology from the future that
what he says is, "My future science indicates the roots of this disturbance trace back to one moment, the murder of Ted Kord." My future science.
It's perfect. I guess that's 2 words we don't have to ask anything about.
But
future science.
Maybe we should.
Future science. It allows solidified time to become malleable. And there's some kind of signal, some kind of tachyon field, some kind of Star Trek jibber jabber.
Oh my gosh. I just noticed. Okay, you saw what I'm reading along with the explanation of that jibber jabber.
Yeah.
What's the title of this issue?
Oh, Meet the Beatles.
The Beatles. Look at the font. Now let's see, on the 4th page of the issue.
Okay.
You got the splash page.
Oh, I see it. The
top panel.
They're all, it's the Abbey. What's it called?
Abbey Road.
Abbey Road.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I just noticed that.
That's great. Yeah, man, that's great. Perfect reference right there.
Except they're all wearing their shoes, but other than that, recreating that album cover.
Oh, man. Yeah, time can become malleable in these solidified time events, and Rip's not on board. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. He is not on board for this. But Booster's like, "You know what? If there's a chance, I'm taking it." And he goes, and they're successful. They're able to stop Maxwell Lord. He pulls the trigger, but you almost think that poor Booster's going to take one right in the eye. It just grazes him, though. And they save Ted Kord, and they take him into the time sphere and into the future.
Yeah. And it's really well done. I remember reading that countdown issue, and Blue Beetle's death was, pretty shocking and pretty moving for comics where you don't believe anybody's going to die.
Mm-hmm. You saw how issue 5 went down. You're reading this contemporaneously. Is that the word? Yes. Contemporaneously. So you're reading this, and what was your expectation? Did you think that this would actually happen?
Maybe because the explanation that Future Beetle gives is he says, no one can ever know. In order to preserve history, the world must continue to believe Ted Kord is dead. Jaime would continue to be the Blue Beetle, and he says, you are no longer the greatest hero the world will never know, Booster Gold. You and Ted Kord are the greatest heroes the world will never know.
Mm-hmm.
This is set up for the Blue and the Gold to do the DC Quantum Leap thing.
That's great.
And the next volume is called Blue and Gold.
Yes. That's great. I did not think they would be able to actually pull Ted Kord out of the time stream. I thought it was going to be one of those stupid, that just like Rip calls it, solidified time. You cannot change this moment. And Booster is tragically going to be unable to save him no matter what. Or how they would do it is Booster will get the opportunity to say his goodbye somehow before Ted Kord dies. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen. We come out of this, Booster wins. Ted Kord is alive. Rejoice. Come on. It's crazy. I was happy. It was a great way to end this thing. I don't have any other notes here as far as throughout the issues. There was we learn how it looks like Daniel meets his soon to be wife, I guess, or his future wife. And of course, now we see that
the timing's all thrown off, and Rip says he needs them to begin their heroic legacy now. With the family's heroic legacy now. And there's some mild flirting going on.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not really doing anything to impress her.
Right freaking now.
Yeah. Jesse, that's the end of this volume. It is not the end of this story.
All right.
We talked a lot about the writing. That's usually where my attention is drawn, but I love Dan Jurgens' art.
Yeah, it's great.
There's art that's flashier, but this is just solid, good comic art.
I'll agree.
When I think comic books, it's Dan Jurgens, George Perez, guys like that. That's what I think of as comic art.
Mm-hmm. I'll agree. We do not have to stop here, Evan Bevins. Believe it or not, I got an open calendar. At some point, sometime maybe later this year, we can jump into volume 2, and I'll put together a nice little Spotify playlist when we're done of our coverage of the Booster Gold
there
series.
You go. And as long as we're talking about continuing coverage, I might throw Squirrel Girl Volume 3 out there. I know we did Volume 1, right. But if you like time travel,
I'll dig that, huh? All right. I'll dig it. All right, man. Let's go ahead and we'll get into some plugs here, buddy. What do you got to plug here that's going on in podcast/blog land?
I keep saying this every time I'm on one of your shows, but I really am going to finish up Super Pro soon.
You only got, I think last time we were talking about, you only had a couple issues?
And I still only have a couple issues. The draft's written.
Okay. All right.
I've got that going on. And in a couple weeks, the aforementioned Mark Radulich and I will be doing a triple feature of Jennifer Garner movies, one of which I did purchase at Dollar Tree. That'll allow a little cross-pollination there for a Dollar Tree cinema entry. And then, let's see, I know you and I will have a new Snap material. But in the meantime, if you like my ideas but hate the sound of my voice, you can read my work at *51.blogspot.com.
Recently, this most recent past Monday, the 8th of January, it was myself, Dean Compton, Derryweight, talking the 20th issue of Jack Kirby's Fourth World. I think that was from 1998, I want to say. John Byrne retold some classic stories, apparently. I'm not a Fourth World guy, but I got educated, much like I did here tonight on Booster Gold. I got educated about Supertown and the Forever People, because they are part of that Fourth World, and it's a crazy cosmic catastrophe over there. All sorts of crazy stuff going on, but I had a good time. I learned a lot there with those guys. And then on the 1st of January, it was myself and Mark Radulich talking about Not All Robots by Mark Russell, and that was a lot of fun as well. But other than that, I think that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you being here. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.
And the Justice League's gaze, seeking a chance to rewrite his story, to join the hero's dance. With skits by his side, and a heart so true. Booster faces challenges old and new. Rip onto walls of temporal strife, a journey through time to shape a hero's life. Booster gold, booster gold. Oh, we love you. Booster gold. Through the tides of time, your tale is told. In the cosmic dance, where destinies unfold. In a fortress in the past, where dark shadows fall, Discord finds a plot that threatens them all. Lord's foundation, a nightmare unseen. Booster and the Beatles will crush the villain schemes. In the blaze of heroics, Booster takes a stand. Destiny will change now, upsetting fate's plan. Booster gold, booster gold.